Alright guys, so welcome to part 2 and Down in Flames. This is the second mission of the Hat in the Ring campaign, and we've encountered some enemy aircraft that we're going to try to engage right now. That looks like an Albatross. Looks like a D3. Alright, so here we are in the furball. Okay, got a guy right there. I'm going to lean the mixture out just a little bit more here. Alright, this guy looks like he's gone straight and level. Okay, alright, we're catching up to him, and that should be because the Newport did have a better climb rate and a higher top speed than the Albatross did. So I'm trying to resist the urge to actually turn with this guy and maybe just do some gentle turns and just try to climb above him a little bit. I'll check my 6 here real quick. Alright, looks like we're doing good. I'm going to keep pursuing this guy. Hopefully my wingman will keep a watch on our tail. Alright, so I'm just going to stay high above this guy. Let him kind of bleed off some of his speed. Alright, so he did some pretty abrupt maneuvering, and again, I'm just trying to stay high here. Alright, visibility is really tough. Gotta watch the airspeed in this aircraft. So apparently if you got in too steep of a dive, the fabric from the top wing would actually rip off, which is kind of wild. Alright, here we go. Looks like he might be smoking. Yep. Is his engine off? Yeah, I think his engine might be off. Alright, so the rule pretty much was if an enemy aircraft was disabled, you didn't really mess with them too much because they were already not a threat. And I think it was that gentlemanly kind of honor that they had in World War I. Where they just, you know, wouldn't engage. Most pilots that had honor just wouldn't engage a downed airplane. Now, I did hear stories later on in the war, some of the aces would use this to their advantage. They would turn off their engine or pretend to be dead so that they could escape a fight and then re-engage or just live to fight another day. So it's a pretty interesting tactic. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and continue on our mission towards the next patrol zone. And I'll regroup with my guys and head down there, see what we can find out. I've just seen an Albatross down there. I think that's the guy that I just shot down. And what's cool about Rise of Flight, you can actually look down into no man's land, and you can see the battles occurring down there. A bunch of explosions and things like that, which is pretty awesome. Looks like he might end up landing down there in no man's land. You see all those craters down there. And if you've seen the movie either Flyboys or the Red Baron, definitely shows the no man's land and how brutal that was. And looks like we still have an enemy albatross up here. And look, and he might dive down on us. I'm not sure if he sees us or not, but he's definitely got the altitude advantage right now. You can see what a beautiful aircraft this is. And you can see the beauty of German engineering. When you get in the cockpit of the Albatross, there's so many pilot-friendly functions, and just the streamline of this, you can see the nose of the aircraft. It's very aerodynamic, and the engineering just seemed somewhat superior to the French. You certainly get that stereotype of German engineering, even from this air. Still just following the river down to our patrol sector. One of the, I guess, bad things about the Nieuports is they were gas guzzlers, and you can see our fuel there. Barely. They only got about an hour and 10 minutes of flight time, which wasn't the greatest. Certainly not compared to today's standards. There, some of the modern jets, you know, they'll get between an hour and a half to 3 hours of flight time. They've never been very gas-friendly, high-performance fighters. And if you think about their mission, it kind of makes sense. They're built to be the fastest, you know, most aggressive aircraft in the sky, and they carry a lot of ordnance and a lot of weight. And they're built to go fast. So, not the best endurance, but it was certainly doable. Just got to keep tabs on the clock. And I know, you know, by 11:30 is pretty much RTB time in order to give me enough fuel to get back and have a little bit of a safe margin. We just had some aircraft that I'll show you some of the aircraft that crashed earlier. And this guy's still up flying around somewhere. What a beautiful airplane the Albatross is. I just want you guys to check this out. You can see behind me, if you look at that brown kind of stream of just busted up dirt, that's all no man's land there. It goes for miles and miles and miles. And I didn't realize how big no man's land was. You can see the double trenches there. Until I looked at a map of World War I, and I mean, literally miles and miles and miles and miles of trenches and frontline fighting between the French and the Germans and the British. I'm not sure if the British were on the ground. I imagine that they were, but certainly the French and Germans at the border. I just went for miles. It's massive, and that kind of explains the millions of casualties that we had during that war. Alright, so here we are in the patrol zone, and just looking down, trying to find any enemy aircraft. We're at about 10,000 feet or so, and the general rule in aviation is -2 degrees Celsius for every 1,000 feet that you go up is what you lose in temperature, and it's because of the thinner air. You don't have as much kind of cushioning to keep you warm, so it definitely gets cold, and that's why it's cold up in mountains and things like that. So the interesting thing is, at 10,000 feet, let's say it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit on the ground, it's about a 3.6 degree temperature loss for every 1,000 feet. So at 10,000 feet, it's literally 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or freezing. So a nice sunny day on the ground, you go up to 10,000 feet, and it's absolutely 32 degrees freezing. So these guys, that's why they bundled up so much in leather jackets. And I heard one British World War I pilot, his testimony was that they wore something like 7 layers, including silk and wool and leather and just tons of gloves and anything that could possibly keep them warm. And he said at 20,000 feet they would still be freezing even with all that gear on. So that's pretty amazing what these guys went through. And you can see our nice altimeter showing about 3,200 meters there. Alright, let's go ahead and descend down in the patrol zone, see if we can spot any enemy aircraft and maybe dive down on them. So I'm just going to do a nice standard right-hand turn over this forest area here. Getting a little bit fast. So just doing a nice spiraling descent down at 2,000 feet, see if we could find any enemy air contact. Still not seeing anything. Just beautiful clouds and a beautiful day to fly and rise of flight. It's amazing how much like real life this looks. One thing in rise of flight, it's very important to adjust the mixture as you get higher up, and the way you do that is simply, I'll show you the instruments on the lower right hand corner right here. You can see that here's the throttle. This is actually the mixture control, and I'll show you what that looks like. The way you adjust it is you look at your RPM, and you can see the RPM indicator here or here. So I actually have another axis on my joystick that I use for this instead of it being a throttle. And let's say you run it full rich, your engine's going to really lose power. So as you lean it out, it lowers the fuel to air mixture ratio. Because the air gets thinner as you get higher, you need a lower amount of fuel to burn evenly with an even amount of air. And if you give it too much, it actually overfloods the engine, and it causes this engine roughness that you're seeing here. So what you do is you just lean it out just a little bit, and you're going to keep leaning until you get peak RPM or maximum RPM here. So there's about 13,000, or excuse me, 1340 RPM, 1350 RPM, and I'm going to keep leaning it, and see the needle just dropped here. So I'm going to go enriching it just a little bit, go back up until I get the maximum RPM. You can see I'm about halfway in my mixture control here, and I'll show you on the actual gauge itself. You can see it's at 50% mixture. Here, I'll move it for you. So that's the mixture control there. And you always want to keep doing that. When we were up at 10,000 feet, it was actually down at about 2 or 3. So it gets pretty low up at high altitudes. So just be aware of that. Alright, we're going to do one final turn. If we don't see anything, we're going to go ahead and RTB. Alright, so once we fly over this huge forest, and then we'll cross the river down there, and we should be home. Close to that forest right there, about our 11 o'clock, that far one. That's around where our base is, on the west side of that. And the view distance for this is pretty remarkable. I was up at about 7,000 feet, and we had downed an albatross, and I remember I looked down, and I could see the, yeah, perfect example right there. You could see that base all the way down there. We were at 7,000 feet, and I could see the albatross burning when it hit the ground. So the view distance in this is pretty remarkable. Great sense of immersion. Just looking at the map, that was Maysville Aerodrome just behind us. That's one of my wingmen just got ahead of me. Very cool. You can hear these guys hitting their blip switch like crazy. Just trying to slow down. The AI in this are actually pretty good, but they do get a little confused sometimes. Alright, so here we're back at our aerodrome, and our team's just going to go ahead and land right now. I actually just lost my engine because I had the blip switch on too long, and the engine actually turned off. So you can windmill it, but you have to be going pretty fast to do that. But you can just keep trying to start it, and you do have to... Oh, there it goes again. You do have to windmill it to get it going again. And you can try restarting the ignition. Hopefully it'll start back up again. Very interesting aircraft to fly. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and slip it. I'm going to go full left rudder, give it some right aileron, and just try to slow it down a little bit here. And it helps you lose altitude in a hurry without picking up too much speed. And once you get nice and slow, full back on the stick. Might have to add a burst of power to keep it going where you want it to. Especially towards the end of the ground roll, she likes to ground loop, which is when the tail likes to come around. So in order to contradict that, you really need to plant the tail on the ground by going full elevator back, and then just go ahead and give it a burst of power to make it go where you want her to go. And what that does is it creates wind over the aerodynamic surfaces, including the especially the rudder, to give you some directional control. I always try to make turns to the left because of the natural torque that the engine creates. Has a natural ability that it just wants to turn to the left because of the torque of the engine. Alright, and I'll go ahead and kill my mixture. Alright, so since the engine turns to the right, or the propeller turns to the right, or actually the engine does turn to the right in this case because it's a rotary engine, the aircraft nose wants to go to the left, and that's why on takeoff you need a lot of right rudder. So that's why on the ground, if you want to make a tight turn, it's always better to make a left turn, especially in a tail dragger, because it'll give you a much sharper turn. The aircraft nose wants to go left anyway. And then I actually read some accounts, some World War I pilots, and I think it was the Sopwith Camel that they were referring to, and they said that it could make if it made a left turn, like a hard left turn in a dogfight, it could do that in a quarter of the time that it would take to make a hard right turn because of the torque tendencies. So that's pretty, you can certainly use that to your advantage, and making left turns if you need to make a really hard turn. Of course, the circumstances and tactics are dependent upon the situation that you're in, but traditionally, and especially in these aircraft that have asymmetrical forces acting on the aircraft, certainly you can make a left turn a lot tighter. Alright, so that's the end of Chapman going down in flames. That's mission 2 of the Ring in the Hat campaign. And a little bit of just kind of flight instruction there. Just sharing some stuff that I've learned. Hope you guys are benefiting from these, and I'm certainly enjoying flying this amazing flight simulator. So I hope you guys join me for more of these videos, and I'll continue to push them out and fly through this campaign. Alright, happy Memorial Day, guys. I'll see you guys next time.